Joining me now are three senior MPs for the Conservatives: Iain Duncan, for Labour, Angela Rayner, and for the Liberal Democrats, Alastair Carmichael. Welcome to you all. Iain Duncan, programme for government for the next 2 years. What do you think is going to be the hardest to get through Parliament in it?
I think almost unquestionably, parked in the middle of this, dominating this, will be what we call the repeal bill, which is an actual series of bills, and it's all about bringing the 1972 European Communities Act back into UK law, all of the European regulations and the laws that are relevant to those various areas like agriculture and to safety and everything else. All that will be back in, and that's going to take the longest time, and that's going to be the thing that dominates. And there's another point which won't be known by the public, that an awful lot of that will have to be done on what we call the floor of the House, which means that limits hugely what else can go on. You can't have another bill starting if you're occupying the House with this legislation. So that's the unusual element of European legislation. It occupies the space that almost everything else might be in.
And we're hearing that you, the Liberal Democrats, will try and obstruct it, put forward alternative proposals on Britain's relationship with the EU, including an amendment for the single market.
We've just come from a general election where we made it perfectly clear that that was what we were going to do. The 12 Liberal Democrat MPs who have been elected will now pursue that in opposition, and it's something that we know there is a broad measure agreement for across the House. There are several of Iain's colleagues in the backbenchers who agree with us. I think that there are even a substantial chunk in the Labour Party. So yes, I think, Theresa May said that she wanted a mandate for something that she hadn't got a mandate for in the referendum. The people denied her that mandate, and now she has to accept that she's now in a parliament where we're all minorities, and she cannot expect to get her own way on everything in the way that she might have done if she got what she wanted.
Exactly, what will you do?
Well, we shall see what is presented as the bills are brought forward. It's the government who has to set the agenda, and we will then respond to it. But the things that we will be promoting as being important to us are things like the membership or access to the single market, because frankly, in the strength of our economy and for the security of jobs, that's what really matters.
Angela Rayner, you're already winning in a sense. Grammar schools have gone, so has the idea of getting rid of free school lunches in primary schools.
Well, I welcome the fact that they're not in the Queen's speech, but what was concerning is it wasn't enough to reassure the parents and the head teachers out there that the schools will get the funding that they require, and the public services. We've seen the police are also saying that they need more resources, and in fact, whilst they've turned on more cuts to the police, they're saying actually they don't have the resources they need. I'm a Greater Manchester MP, and after what happened in Manchester, our police force is quite clearly saying that they're overstretched and need that resource. So I would like to see the Prime Minister looking at that as well. She's clearly a lot weaker now as a result of the general election. I welcome the Chancellor's intervention yesterday and making sure that we don't have a crashing out of Europe with a hard Brexit, and we'll be making sure that the Commons do their place in making sure that there is jobs and future prosperity at the heart of Brexit.
And as the opposition, is your focus going to be on attacking the Conservatives on that broad agenda, or, as the Liberal Democrats are saying, trying to make sure that hard Brexit doesn't happen?
Well, we set out a manifesto that we felt would catch the heart of the nation, and it was about making sure that Britain builds a future prosperity for all. And I believe that we will set out amendments to the Queen's speech over the next few days, and I think that actually we can command broad support in that we must make sure that when we leave Europe that it's about jobs and future living standards and environment and our hard-fought jobs, protections for workers' rights, and making sure that obviously domestic things like security, public services, and an end to austerity.
So when it comes to us going forward and saying we're making definite positive moves to keep Britain part of the single market, will you be with us?
Well, we've said that we want to see access to the single market going forward, and we will constructively work with people to
Iain Duncan,
that.
I mean, that, as I understand it, you won't accept that. I mean, you believe that Brexit has to mean leaving the single market. And
I stood on a manifesto that said that we were leaving the European Union, as the vote was last year. That entailed leaving the single market, the customs union, but getting the best deal we can. I agree about needing good access for jobs. I thought Monsieur Barnier the other day was very clear. He also wants the same. I mean, the truth is the Labour Party stood on pretty much the same manifesto, which was to leave the European Union and to leave the single market. And Harriet Harman made that clear, as did John MacDonald, as has Mr Corbyn in the last week. So, in a funny sort of way, 85% of the public voted on this basic overlapping manifesto. So, you know, up to Labour how they now behave, but they're very clear about that.
We had a very clear difference in that. Theresa May said no deal was better than a bad deal. Well, no deal is a bad deal. And we were quite clear about the Brexit, Tim. It was about jobs and future living standards. People did not vote for Brexit to make their lives more.
So has no deal gone as an option?
No, the point is, as Monsieur Barnier said as well, interesting the other day, the objective is now absolutely that we want to get a deal with the UK. They are very important to us, which is true, and therefore I think there's a whole mood shift taking place in the European Union, which is let's work on that deal.
I mean, do you think you went too far in trying to win over all those UKIP voters during the
no, I see that John Curtis has produced some incredible piece of work now, which says actually the Conservative Party made major advances with blue-collar workers, and the Labour Party has somehow got some advances in the Liberal territory. So we now maybe have a very different nature of politics.
Well, you didn't make any advances this week. When you look at David Davis, and he set out that he wanted parallel talks this week as part of the European talks, and you know we didn't get that. But we came out embarrassed.
Hang on, we will get at the end of the day. There's no deal is agreed till everything is agreed, and the reality is, for example, one little point which has never been thought about: as we leave. In the WTO, which will be the case with the European Union and ourselves, there are schedules there that require us to make an agreement with the European Union. That requires some money. So they can't agree any of the money until we've agreed the deal.
Politics is a funny old business. Any second now, Iain is going to sound like somebody from the Soviet Union explaining why the 5-year target on tractor production is exceeding expectations.
With respect, you guys didn't get success out of your plan.
The difficulty that Iain has is that his party said they wanted a mandate for the hard, extreme Brexit that Theresa May outlined. They went to the country, they didn't get it. That is why she has lost her authority, and that's why she's got 5 years of difficult negotiation ahead of her.
But he can fairly say your vote share went down, even though you got more MPs. So, and you came fourth.
But you know, we were very
so
clear.
You don't really have a great deal of moral authority yourselves.
What we said we were going to pursue in this Parliament. That's what we're going to do. And you know as well as I do, Adam, that there are a lot of Iain's backbench colleagues who agree with us.
So it's interesting because what the Conservatives did, they wanted a mandate just about Brexit. They wanted the general election to be about that. What Labour had was a clear that we were going to be leaving Europe, that we didn't want to have a hard Brexit, but actually we had a better vision for the future of Britain as well. You know, we increased our seat numbers, we increased our majority, we were doing well. They said that they were going to improve and have a landslide.
But Angela, can I just ask you one simple question? Your manifesto on the Europe issue was very clear. It said we are leaving the European Union, taking back control of our borders, and as Corbyn, MacDonald and Harriet Harman have said, that includes leaving the single market and the customs union. Now, we can argue about, you know, no deal is better than a bad deal or whatever, but the reality is your manifesto meant that 85% of the public voted for a clean exit, and that's exactly what we're about.
So we've never said
we're
that
kind of in agreement about this.
No, we've never said that we were not leaving Europe. What we said is jobs and future living standards
well,
were the
we can
most
all tick
important.
that box.
Theresa May didn't say that.
We can all tick that box.
She didn't say that. She was quite happy to bounce out of
But
Europe
isn't
on
the issue in the end
rules.
immigration? I mean, this is the trade-off towards access to the market. Yeah. Well, and I mean, as I don't see in this Queen's speech a renewal of the pledge to reduce total immigration to the tens of thousands to below 100,000. Has that gone, Iain Duncan Smith?
I don't know, because I'm not sitting in the government, so I don't know what their plans are. I'm sure they'll make a clearer announcement about that. But actually, the real point is, who has the right to control migration from the European Union? And that is the critical element that is about, therefore, are we leaving, are we staying? And their commitment by their government is absolutely that we will take back control over that. We will reduce migration because we will not have people just coming here on job specs. We'll have a work permit process. It means those who are high skilled, those that need jobs transfers, but not
necessarily
who are coming
from
in
the present level of nearly 400,000 to below 100,000.
Well, that was our manifesto commitment. I don't know what the final is, but it will come down.
But that is so disingenuous, because the government could have cracked down on those companies that were using overseas agencies that were bringing in unskilled workers. They could have done that. They didn't need to come out of Europe to do that.
Angela, I sat in government, and I can promise you the rules are very clear. First of all, anyone from the European Union was able to claim any benefit, including child benefit, even unaccompanied. And, more importantly, you cannot restrict somebody or kick them out of the country because they haven't got a job.
You allowed employers to go and recruit overseas and undermine workers here.
But that's exactly what's happening in Belgium.
If you can behave yourself for a second, the pair of you, they're both losing, they're missing the point here.
What's the point?
Immigration is not the point, it's not the issue.
It is
the issue is the strength of our economy and the job security of our constituents.
That's why we put jobs and living standards first.
The membership of the single market and access to the single market is going to be absolutely
But you don't think
central.
anxiety about the level of immigration was one of the things that fueled the vote for
Of course
Brexit?
there was an anxiety, but I think there is an anxiety because those of us who are part of the political debate do not always offer an open and honest and accurate picture of what immigration actually means, the importance that immigration has to our communities. We couldn't run an NHS without immigration. The fish processing houses in my factory rely on having people coming to them. And these are good things. This helps economic growth.
But you know,
that's the
You
argument
guys
we need
want
to
the
be
vote
hearing.
again. That's the honest truth. Come on, the Liberal Democrats stood on a platform that said, we want another referendum.
No, we said we want a referendum on the deal.
You were defeated on that. So the question is, are you still trying to get that second referendum? Or are you going to listen to the
Liberal Democrats who were elected to the House of Commons were elected on that platform. We have every right and a mandate to pursue that with
So you don't listen to the British people?
You want to ignore the referendum, you want a dog whistle for you, and we want a future Britain for everybody.
Iain Duncan Smith, I'm just reading the government notes on the legislation, which you know we're provided with. On the immigration bill, there is no mention of this target of tens of thousands. So one would assume that has now gone.
Yeah, but we are bringing migration down. Whether they have a target for tens of thousands, we will bring that migration level down, and taking back control of our borders with the European Union and having control over that, probably through a work permit system, which I think would work really, really well, and not allowing people to access benefits unless they've made a contribution to those benefits over a period of time. That will resolve a huge amount of what I call some of those who arrive over here take very low-paid jobs and then top that up by claiming benefits. Now what we'll say to companies is, you have to pay people a living wage if they're coming here, and that job has to be viable, and you have to be able to show that you can't get a British person to do that job. Fair and reasonable
For years,
migration.
the Conservatives have allowed employers to undercut British wages, and they've allowed to go overseas to agencies to bring workers over. It's not immigrants that are the problem, Iain Duncan Smith. It's not immigrants.
The open border
it is
policy.
the Conservative Party that have allowed that to happen.
Angela, it's the open door policy to the European Union. Of course.
I just want to look at some of the economic measures which are here. Mainly, they are investing in infrastructure, but there is this national insurance contributions bill, which we assume is to bring freelancers in line with PAYE taxpayers. I mean, you must welcome all of that, infrastructure investment, making sure people don't avoid their fair share of tax.
Well, there were elements of the Queen's speech that you could have quite easily have said was lifted from the Labour manifesto. So, of course, we want a fairer taxation system and we want infrastructure. We've been calling for an end to austerity for some time now because we've seen the devastation, not just on our public services, but on businesses and their ability to be able to plan for the future. The government do need to invest in our infrastructure, in broadband, in our transport, because it helps business and it will help our economy going forward.
Well, on the measure on national insurance, we'll see what they say when they bring forward. The devil, as ever, will be in the detail there. But, you know, the danger is, and this was why Iain's colleagues got so excited about this the last time that the changes were brought forward in national insurance, is that so many people in the Treasury and at the heart of government don't seem to understand the nature of life for people who are running their own small businesses as self-employed people. We mustn't allow the Tories to throw the entrepreneurial baby out with the tax-avoiding bathwater.
Finally, Parliament has now been opened according to the Fixed Term Parliaments Act, which again I see is not going to be abolished now in this programme of government. It's got 5 years to run. How long do you actually think it's going to last?
I don't see anything really happening to disturb that for at least 2 years. A lot will depend on the outcome of the Brexit negotiations. It could in fact run the full 5.
I'm looking for it to run the full 5. The last thing I want to do
under Theresa May
is in 4th times go and have another election. I think the British public, by the way, absolutely does not want another election. I think they're all electioned out, as they said to us. So we want it to run the full term. Do you think it's a bit dangerous to tell the British public what they think? No, but I mean, they said it to us publicly, and again, they don't want any more
How long do you think this one's going to last?
Well, I think the Conservatives are already, there's members of the Cabinet that are already jostling for positions already. I don't think it will last very long. Theresa May's weak and wobbly. She's not been able to command. She can't even do the the deal she wanted with the DUP, so I don't think it'll
There's
last
a
very long.
difference.
But your
And the
party-
Labour Party is ready to go.
Oh, come on, Angela. Your party's at odds. It can't even agree what its plan is now for Brexit.
We're very clear on our plan
No,
for
you're not.
Brexit.
You've got them
And all
wrong.
along,
I
you've
was
ripped
just
us-
on the
you've just
radio.
ripped us up already.
The Parliament may last, but I don't see Theresa May still being Prime Minister.
Okay, on that note, thank you all three very much indeed.